I have an incredible story to share with you. For 24 years, a man named Gu Gangtong rode his motorcycle across China in search of his son. His child had been abducted when he was just 2 years old, and the memory haunted Gu, driving him to keep searching relentlessly. Then, the unimaginable occurred. To provide some context, Gu Gangtong hails from China, a vast nation where thousands of children go missing each year. The Chinese government acknowledges this as a significant national issue and is actively working to combat the abduction and trafficking of children. This tragedy struck little Gu Shunseng, who was only 2.5 years old. While playing outside his home, he was approached by a couple who had been plotting to find a child to abduct and sell. What a horrific scheme. In large part, the practice has been spurred by China's one-child policy, which, until 2015, allowed parents to have only one child. This, combined with a preference for boys, has resulted in a huge black market for male newborns, with couples paying a lot to have a boy. Without an adequate pension system, parents often expect their children to take care of them in their old age. This is not to say that girls are not sold and bought, but they often end up as servants or as brides for an only son. And so the vicious cycle continues and children continue to disappear. It is not only in China that human trafficking has been one of the most terrible human rights violations in the world. But I am not here to depress you. Actually, this story is not just full of pain, although it may seem so. The two suspects in the story, a woman surnamed Tan and her boyfriend named Ju, had it all planned. She would pick up the child and take him to the bus station, where her partner would be waiting for her, ready to take them both on the intercity bus. She picked up little Gu and took him away at a time when neither of his parents were looking. Within moments, they were on the bus with little Gu, who did not know what was going on, but certainly sensed that something was wrong. The experience must have been terrifying for him. Arriving in the next town, the couple soon found buyers and sold little Gu. They would now raise him as their own, and since the boy was too young to realize that he had been taken, he would not even remember that his early life had been different. When Gu Shunseng's father realized that his son was not where he had left him, panic set in, and he began to search for him. He went around the house and the neighborhood, asking everyone if they had seen his little boy. He called the police, who quickly realized what had happened and told Mr. Gangtong that the child was probably already far away and out of their jurisdiction. It happened all the time, and most children were never found. Gu Gangtong and his wife San Wang were inconsolable. Their little boy had been the center of their universe, and they could not let him go. They felt so helpless, especially when they learned that they were not the only parents to whom this had happened. They realized that looking for a child in a country of 1.3 billion people is like looking for a needle in a haystack, but they still couldn't let it go. After a few months, the police gave up the search for their son, and Gu set out to keep looking. Seriously, if you look up the word persistence in the dictionary, you might find a portrait of this father. Like a bulldog, he stuck to the case and vowed he would find his son. His wife was suspicious and didn't like where this was going, but she also knew that without any effort on his part, they would have to give up their little boy. With a heavy heart, she watched her husband pack up some belongings and walk away, beckoning him until he reached the end of his street. And so began his epic journey, which would last 24 years and take him more than 500,000 kilometers across China. He had no concrete plan but to raise awareness. He printed large banners to hang on the back of his motorcycle and printed leaflets to hand out to people. The banners showed a huge picture of his young son and explained the reasons for his trip. They read, "Son, where are you? Daddy is looking for you to come home." Perhaps it is hard to imagine what Gu must have gone through, but the pain and loss were what kept him going. He had a map and started crossing out the towns and cities he visited, keeping track of everyone he asked. Sometimes he had a lead and followed the information in hopes of finding his son, but he always ended up empty-handed and had to start over. For a couple of days, this seems doable. For a couple of weeks, maybe, but to go on for months, years, and decades is amazing. Along the way, Gu went through more than 10 motorcycles and had his share of traffic accidents. He also spent all the money he had saved and often slept on the street or under bridges. He did odd jobs to earn some money or begged for money to help support his household. He was robbed several times, broke a few bones, and often hit rock bottom, needing to go home. He gave everything he had in this quest, but he never gave up because every time he returned home, he became restless and knew he was the only one who could bring his son back. So he would set out again and keep searching for his son. Little by little, Gu's incredible journey began to reach the masses and touch the hearts of many people. In a way, his search became a symbol for all the children who had disappeared and continued to disappear. In 2015, while Gu himself was still on the road and still driving with his flags looking for his son, now in his 20s, a film producer became interested in the story. A movie called Lost in Love was made, starring Chinese superstar Andy Lau as the father. With all the attention he was getting, Gu turned his focus to the heartbreaking problem of abducted children in China. With his search efforts, experience, and expertise, he was able to find other missing children. Parents who had suffered the same fate as him came to him for help, and in some cases, he was able to find their children. He created a website, and a couple of years later, a non-profit organization, so that he could help more parents and spread the word about his cause. Thanks to his efforts, more and more children came home, and Gu Gaintong became a national celebrity. But unfortunately, his own son was still missing, so he continued to ride his motorcycle around China. Technology had also caught up, and the Chinese police had begun to create a DNA database so that private parents could be linked to potentially missing children. Gu and his wife were more than happy to have blood drawn to add to the database in the hope of finding a match. Penalties for child trafficking were also stiffened, and as the government softened enforcement of the one-child policy, fewer children were taken. But still, there was no trace of their child until one day the unthinkable happened. It had been 24 years since Gu first went out on a motorcycle, minus 24 years during which most people would have given up long ago, and where no one gave them any hope of finding their son, who had already turned 26. They received a message from the police through their colleagues in the neighboring province. They had received a tip about a possible match. A DNA test confirmed the unbelievable. This young man was indeed their son, kidnapped so many years ago. He had grown up with his new parents and had never been told he was adopted. While the news was shocking for his birth parents, can you imagine the feeling of discovering that your entire life has been a lie? It's as if your world has been turned upside down. It took time for everyone involved to process this reality, but the reunion was now unavoidable. Gu Gaintong's greatest dream, the reason for his 24-year search, had finally come true. He had found his son. The moment he and his wife embraced their son for the first time since his abduction was both heartbreaking and heartwarming. They wept and held him tightly. If this doesn't move you, you must be made of stone. The event captured headlines worldwide and sent chills down many spines. No one anticipated this outcome, except perhaps Gu Gaintong himself, who never lost hope. Pang Sanyuan, the film's director, remarked that Lost in Love has finally achieved a genuine happy ending, and it's remarkable that after so many years and miles, Gu Gaintong has been reunited with his son. Dear viewers, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this incredible story. Please share your opinions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for your support.